everything kind of comes together in Boston, with a historical franchise. Talk to us about obviously being there and then how things just kind of continue to transpire for you.
So for me, going to Boston, I was caught off guard with that trade mid-season because we was in the playoff race. Like 5 minutes later, agent calls, he's like, you about to get traded to Boston. I'm like, damn, I'm already thinking they just traded Rondo, so they rebuilding. Like, this would be my first time even possibly making the playoffs if I stay with Phoenix. So I was hot at the situation because I knew they were in rebuild mode, and I'm like, man, I don't want to be on a bad team again. Mm-hmm. But I remember the first person calling me after the trade, OG Isaiah Thomas. He's like, you might not think it now, but this is going to be the best. This is the best, situation for your career. And at that time, I'm like, damn, bro, I'm in Phoenix. It's hot. I don't even got a coat. Boston is rebuilding. It's cold as hell out there. I'm like, man, I don't want to go. This is before I talked to Danny, talked to Brad, all them. So then I get traded there, and then I just, genuinely it worked out. Like, they needed somebody like me. I needed somebody like them that was going to give me a chance to go rock out. And then I was able to do that. Brad put the ball in my hands. It was, for 3 years, it was everything I dreamed of, being the man. Mm-hmm. Obviously, from the jump, it wasn't like that. I was a sixth man the first year. The second year.
So who was on the team when you first got there? The starters.
So it was Marcus Smart, Avery Bradley, and that was Smart's rookie year. Avery Bradley, and then I forgot who else started after. Evan Turner was there.
Mm-hmm. Evan Turner.
And those were the guards. So my first year, I was thinking when I got traded, I'm like, okay, I'm coming in starting, cool. They said I was coming off the bench. I was fine with that. I ended up playing really well at the end of the year. We ended up going to the playoffs, getting swept by Cleveland. Mm-hmm. Fast forward the second year, which was my first All-Star year. I remember Brad Stevens coming to me in preseason, and he's like, man, you're obviously our best player, but for this team, it'd be best you to come off the bench. And I was like, that hurt me because I worked hella hard that summer. I'm like, this is a good opportunity. I'm going to be starting. It hurt, but I'm like, okay, I get it. It's all good. 2 games into the season, Smart ended up getting hurt one game. I don't know how. He, messed up his toe, shoot around. He like, I'm not playing. Brad's like, you gonna start tonight, but this ain't permanent. Because they knew when they said I was starting, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take it and run with it. Take it and run with it. They like, it's not permanent. Smart come back, you gonna go back to it. I'm like, okay. Smart comes back in 2 games, but those 2 games I had 31 and 29. Mm-hmm. Avery ended up getting hurt. So I stayed in the starting lineup, and then it was over after that. Little people know that to start that year, I was supposed to come off the bench. My first All-Star year. And then those 2 little injuries happened.
Starts, you averaged 30.
And then it was over. And then, I took that opportunity and ran with it. I ended up, making my first All-Star game, which was crazy because it was Kobe's last All-Star game in Toronto. So it was just, I always dreamed of that happening. I didn't know if it was gonna happen. I didn't know if that opportunity was ever gonna come, but I knew one thing, I was gonna be prepared for it if it did. And then my 3rd year, which was my second All-Star year, the game just slowed down for me. Like, it was just so easy after that. No disrespect to nobody. It was just, I knew every night I was gonna get 30. Mm-hmm. Just because I had the opportunity and I prepared for it. Like, I knew where my shots was coming from. I knew all of that, and I prepared. Like I said, I prepared for those moments. I always dreamed about being the man, being on one of the best teams in the NBA, and having that opportunity. One thing that I do regret, those opportunities, I never, I guess, not appreciated them. I was so locked in the moment that I was like, man, nah. Like, the games I had 50, really? I'm like, fuck, I should have had 60. I never enjoyed those moments because I was just so locked into what's next. Yeah. And I always say, I think I was just so paranoid because, nothing was ever given to me. So I was always just like, I might go back to bench tomorrow. That was my mindset. So those 3 years in Boston were everything to me. They allowed me to reach heights that I only dreamed of, and they allowed me to reach, be able to inspire so many kids that look like me, that's my height, that never get a real chance. So, that's what that was for. When I was able to hit the top like that, it was for the next little dude that has a problem getting his foot in the league, showing that a little dude can have the number 1 record in the NBA, to be the number 1 seed, to take a team to the conference finals. Like, that can happen.
Right.
You know, when it's not normal, they don't like that.
Right.
So that's the hardest part. So, you know, that was my motivation to make it easier for the guys coming behind me. Knowing the season I had and how many people I was reaching to inspire, that's why I kept going. I'm like, bruh, this can change somebody's life, you know, that's going through some real shit, to give them the courage to keep going.
You dropped 33 hours after hearing this news, rally your team back from an 0-2 deficit to beat the Bulls, win the second round, go into the conference finals against Cleveland, and like you said, fucked your hip up, but kept pressed, because sometimes we're our own worst enemies.
For sure.
And you know you're on the brink of consistent all-star, MVP conversation. That big paycheck is right around the corner. That $150 million is right around the corner. That competitor in you wouldn't let you stop. Talk to us about just getting to that conference finals and then being hurt, and then kind of the trickle-down effect after that.
So I hurt myself back in March. Karl-Anthony Towns had fell on me. Tweaked my hip a little bit, but at that point in time, I only messed my knee up. Like, I sprained my knee. My hip was like, I didn't feel nothing. Till a couple weeks later, where I felt some discomfort in my hip. It wasn't nothing crazy. We took MRIs, everything was solid, boom. Once we hit the playoffs, the tragic news happened. My hip was slowly getting a little worse. The only thing that I would have against Boston, you know, everybody hated Boston for what they did to me. It's a business, I understand it. I'm not tripping on it. The only thing that I think they handled wrong was not explaining to me what the extent of my injury could be if I do play. So that was the biggest thing for me that I disliked, because nobody gave me no insight. Okay, if you do play,
right,
this can happen.
We have to hear that, because if you
On
tell
everything.
us it's going to be sore,
Because it was a bone bruise.
Right.
At the end of the day, it was a bone bruise.
Right.
Like, that's what they said. You know, so if you're gonna tell me it's a bone bruise, I'm playing 10 times out of 10.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna figure it out.
I'm gonna get through that.
So that was probably the only thing that I wish they would have done different, and I would have really sat down and really asked those questions, like, what worst case scenario, what could happen? Obviously, that didn't happen. Fast forward, I keep playing to Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I remember, no disrespect to Darren Williams, but he was on his way out. Like, he was getting a little slower. I do a move, and he's just staying in front. I'm like, dang, I'm kind of fast and quick. I'm like, damn, like, what happened? And I just felt like a shot in my side, and I'm like, I tell the side, I'm like, it might be over, because I couldn't push off no more. And then, you know, halftime comes, and that's when they shut it down. They're like, you're done.